Hi, this is Maury Moreland Morrison, here to tell you Geico has more than just great savings. Much more. Yes, while Geico could help you rack up more moolah faster than you can say metamorphosis, they've also been the fastest growing auto insurer for more than 10 years. That's more like it. Furthermore, Geico has fast and friendly claim service. That might seem like an oxymoron, but it's not. All the more reason to say no other auto insurer has more than Geico. Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Montana Chaos with your host, Rodney Shortridge, and co-host, Robin Dalton.
away on some glad morning. I can feel my index calling. And I don't know if there's heaven, but I'll do everything I can. Reach your broken down heart with a dead man singing. Fly away on some glad morning. I can feel my index calling. And I don't know if there's heaven, but I'll do everything I can. To ease your broken down heart with a dead man singing.
That was our guest tonight, Jerry Sword with Dead Man's Hand. I'd like to say good evening to everyone and thank you for joining us tonight. You can listen to them by going to blogtalk.com/Within the Chaos or call in and listen or to ask any questions to our guests at 323-870-4197. We're deep within the heart of the Appalachian Mountains. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you all for listening to Within the Chaos. My name is Rodney Shortridge, and I'll be your host tonight, along with my fiery redhead co-host, Robin Dalton.
Hey, y'all.
Tonight, our special guest is Jerry Sword. Jerry is a Virginia-based documentary filmmaker who is also a student of paranormal research. He has worked both on independent films as well as motion pictures. In 2013, Sword released his debut documentary film, This Place is Haunted, which aired in over 7 states on various VPS affiliates. Sword is currently in the final editing stages of American Ghost Towns, which is a television pilot that is being pitched to several media outlets. He is credited as an actor, director, and published songwriter. Got a couple announcements. BDPS will be at the Tazewell County Library on Thursday, October 27th at 7 p.m. We're going to be talking about some of our top paranormal investigations, and it's free and open to the public. So bring your questions, and there'll also be light refreshments that will be provided. BDPS and Within the Chaos will be at this year's Sci-Fi Convention on October 22nd, located at Bluefield State College, Bluefield, West Virginia. Whew. So, Robin, how was your week?
My week has been awesome.
That's good.
Same old, work.
My week has been kind of off and on. I'm either working or I'm sitting down doing nothing and thinking about working. Well, so much for that. Well, it's my honor to welcome our special guest, Jerry Sword. Hello, Jerry, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Hey, Rodney, thank you for having me.
Oh, man, thank you for coming on. You did get that check in the mail, right? Okay. You can cash it. I made sure there was money in there, so it won't bounce.
Yeah, that 2 cents will go right through.
So, Jerry, tell us a little bit about yourself, your travels, and how you got into filming documentaries.
Well, it started as a fluke. Back in 2006, I was writing music and asked to submit a piece of music to a B-rated horror movie, which was a film called Grizzly Park. And so, I didn't think a whole lot about it at the time. I did submit a piece of music, and, it turned out that they wanted it. So that was my first real involvement with film. And, I ended up being pretty close to the production, and a lot of good things came out of it. And one of the things that came from it is 5 months later, I ended up in Los Angeles, California, working on a whole separate project that I had got hired to do while I was still in Grizzly Park. So one thing kind of led to another. And so while I was in California, I realized that there's just a whole different attitude between the East Coast and the West Coast in general. And, I really was anxious to get back to the East Coast. And so when I came back, I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth from the whole experience. But when I came back, I thought, I'd rather be able to work on something out here and not necessarily have to be traveling back and forth to LA and dealing with, those different types of people and everything in that situation. So I decided to do a documentary, and I didn't know how I was going to accomplish that. And I sat on it for, I sat on that idea for maybe 6 months to a year. And then one day it hit me, the one thing that I've always been fascinated with is the paranormal. And I've always been fascinated with American history. So that's where I began to, develop the documentary called Places Haunted. I wanted to find that perfect marriage between historical fact and the ghost stories and the legends and the tales that, I'd heard all my life and heard growing up and people had handed down for years and years. And so, I went into production on that, and it took a little while, as things tend to do with me. 3 years later, though, we had a film, and I'm very proud of it, and it's still floating around out there. So that's kind of where it all began.
Cool. Well, can you explain the process of filming a movie and your role as a director?
Oh wow. The process when you're, I am an independent filmmaker, and basically that means you handle every part of it. You are the writer, the director, the camera guy, the editor, the janitor. You're all of those things. So I like to refer to what I myself do. I mean, I've coined this term called guerrilla filmmaking, and that's really the best description of how it all works. And then that's why I turn out a project once every 3 years, because you may be in the editing phase of a project, and I myself, that's my least favorite part of any of it. So it's kind of hard to get motivated at times. You may be on track and moving right along, and then you just lose it. It's almost like having writer's block.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, but when it comes, it flows, and fortunately, I have many, I have a lot more better, good days than I have bad. But it's a crazy experience, just because of the lack of, an entire crew to delegate different things to.
Right. Well, could you tell us about the first movie that you made? I mean, how did it go? How'd you go about it and everything?
Sure. I've always had a fascination with the American Civil War, and living in Southwest Virginia and growing up here, the history is rich here, and the history runs deep, and that's why, to a lot of people in this area, that war's still not over.
Right.
And so, I began to search out landmarks and places and, people that not only had a knowledge of what happened during the war, but that were also kind of, fascinated with the ghost stories and things themselves. And so after, several months of fine-tuning and figuring out exactly what stories we wanted to tell, we narrowed it down to 4. And so I picked my favorites.
Right.
So the whole vibe that I was going for when doing that film is, I remember being a kid and, growing up out on the middle of my dad's back 40, and so the summers were boring, the weekends were boring, and, but the one thing that I do miss is on Saturday nights, you could bet you were going to be on the front porch listening to these stories and these tales. And so I wanted the film to convey that kind of feel, So I chose the ones that I thought could best convey that. And what I got in the process were, not only a bunch of ghost stories or a bunch of history, but I was able to integrate those two things together in a way that, to where the audience was actually learning without realizing they were learning, if that makes any sense.
Right.
So, you kind of get an education with that thing too.
Well, with the story and the ghost stories, did you just use local stories, or did you use any stories or hauntings throughout the South and the North by your film?
Everything that I used in that film was based in either Southwest Virginia or East Tennessee. We were I was kind of confined to the territory that I was able to cover at the time. And of course, we were doing this with no money. And so when you're doing something without the financial backing of a studio, then of course you're limited into what you can do. I have moved on into different territories since then, which I'm, we'll get to, but no, at that time, everything was done within those regions of Southwest Virginia and East Tennessee.
Okay.
All right. What about your TV pilot you're working on, American Ghost Towns? Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, again, another project that's I'm about at the 3-year mark now, so I should be getting close to done. But American Ghost Towns is, I wanted to do exactly what you said, cover a broader region. So, American Ghost Towns, is not the same film. And this was an entirely different animal. I have been fortunate to work with the biggest paranormal investigating group out of Savannah, Georgia. And, I thought, well, if we're going to start this thing and, the idea is to begin in Georgia and take a road trip across the country and to just take these guys along and visit all the locations that you've never heard about, so if this project ever comes into full fruition, you won't be seeing the Lizzie Borden house, you won't be seeing Amityville, you won't be seeing the hotel from The Shining or anything like that. We want to go into the lesser known locations and dig out the history. And hopefully, the idea is that this paranormal team will come back with some amazing evidence that can actually be confirmed, based on the history that we uncover as well.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of work.
There's a paranormal group from Southwest Virginia that would have loved that.
Right. Well, and see, that's the other thing is we're hoping, to actually bring it through Tennessee, Virginia, and eventually on out west and everything. And so I think as far as our plans are with the show, is we're hoping to be in a position to where these guys can come through and be able to meet and work with local paranormal people, no matter where, whatever the location might be.
Well,
it's kind of like putting together a network across the country,
right.
And and a puzzle at the same time.
We have an awesome little ghost town you could check out.
Yeah, I was when I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, I was telling him about Pocahontas to come out and look at it.
I've heard lots of good things about Pocahontas. So you never know. You never know what the future may hold. But so far, I've been, down in Savannah with these guys. We've been up in Tennessee. We've kind of traveled around a little bit together. Mostly for the sake of getting to know each other and, for them to get to know how I work and for me to get to know how they work. And so, we came across some interesting things along the way that unfortunately were not shot with the intentions of having them on the TV show, but interesting places and things.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Well, are there any people in your life that influenced your decision to start or become a director?
Man, I've always been. I like to think I've always been a creative person. I learned music very early in my life. Had a bit of success with that, and I've always been a writer, I guess. And film just seemed like the next logical direction and the next medium for me to take, because you can convey so much more with the visual, and it's an entire, what you can convey a lot with music, obviously, but when the visual thing, it's like night and day. It opens up a lot of creative avenues that I wasn't able to work with before.
Well, so what's your favorite part of creating a film or just TV pilot? Such as working with the actors or the writing, or what's your favorite part about it?
My favorite part is being on location and interacting with the people, interacting with the paranormal team. Becoming knowledgeable about someplace I've never been. It's always an adventure, and I guess my next favorite part of it would be completion, and actually putting it in front of an audience and getting a reaction and, knowing that the job is done.
Right.
Because you start one of these things and it's like, a lot of people have started these things and they end up somewhere on a cutting room floor and they never see the light of day. So completion is, that's the one thing that I strive to complete everything I start. And 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to meet my deadline, but I would rather just create my art and I'm done when I'm done, so, but, getting done is the main thing.
Right. So how supportive is your family with your work and being on, gone and stuff?
Oh, my family, they understand, it's, I wouldn't be complete without being able to go out and do this kind of thing. And so I've got support from, from every aspect of my family. So,
that's awesome.
And I'm not sure, I'm not totally sure that all the other guys can say that, but, so far that hasn't been an issue, and I don't foresee that it will be in the future.
Well, that's awesome. So is there any A-listers that you have worked with or that you would like to work with in the future?
Well, I would love to work with Angelina Jolie. However, I don't ever want to marry her or divorce her.
Well, when you start working with her, I will do anything to help you.
No, I mean, I've worked with, a couple of B-listers. I've worked with, Glenn Morshower, who was, had some pretty good roles in the Transformers movies, and I worked with him on Grizzly Park, and he was also the guy who played Agent Aaron Pierce on the hit TV series 24. Mm-hmm. I've worked with Ron Howard's father, Rance, and that one's probably that's probably as close to royalty as I've ever been. So, there's something nice about being able to say that you've met Ron Howard's father.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Well, with the film and TV pilot that you have directed, do you have any favorite actors or people that you've worked with so far?
Well, it's important to note that in the pilot, there are no actors. Everything that we've shot for the show, these are real locations. These are real people experiencing these events, and these are real people that are, just out trying to find the truth. So there's no real acting involved, other than we do reenact a couple of things, a couple of events that happened, but I tend to use people that you've never heard of.
Right.
So it's more like a reality show, more like?
Yes. Okay. Yes. This is, I once referred to it as a paranormal road trip down Route 666. So, everything that you see, and that's what we kind of set out to do and pride ourselves in is, there are plenty of TV shows out there that, and plenty of reality shows that are scripted, and, I'm not going to mention the names of those shows because we've all seen them, but, you have a static camera on an empty hallway and you have some guy in the background saying, "Did you see that?" And, well, no, you didn't see it. That's not what we're out to do. If we're in a location and we get no evidence, then, we get no evidence.
That's great. That is awesome. I'm so happy to hear you say that.
Yeah, because that's one thing that we run into on cases of people. They, just because they're having these experiences or claims, we go there and we're there all night, don't necessarily mean we're going to get anything. And then when I sit down at the table with them and I tell them we didn't get jack shit, then they're like, "Well, I know you missed something. We had this place covered. There's no way we could have missed anything."
Right. And those are the long nights, man. Those are the long nights.
Yeah.
But we've done some interesting things along the way. One of the locations that we traveled to was, just over in Kingsport, Tennessee. I'm not sure if you've ever investigated the Sensabaugh Tunnel,
no.
But you should. You should.
Okay.
Probably the most compelling piece of evidence that I've seen throughout this process is we were in that tunnel in the middle of the night, and if you're not familiar with it, it's just this old tunnel that, you have two lanes of traffic going through. really there's only room for one. And a lot of the kids go over there and they stop their car in the middle of the tunnel and they turn their engine off because, one of the stories is that if you do that, then you can't start your car. It won't start. And so, we worked there in the middle, late at night, and there was very little traffic. I think maybe 3 cars came through there the whole night. But one of the things that fascinated me was Gordon, one of the guys that I work with on this, he had the ghost box. And the proper name for that thing escapes me at the moment. But anyway, the device that scans radio frequencies in hopes of capturing an EVP. And so we had, we had been in there and had been fooling around for a little while, and it got late, and we had a young lady there with us, and she was kind of a guest, and so she was encouraged to begin asking questions to the ghost box. And what happened next was just, chills ran down my back. I've got a camera on her, but I'm filming in infrared. She doesn't even realize that I'm standing that close to her, And so she asked this thing. She's like, can you tell me my name? Well, there is a response from the ghost box, and it says her name. And her reaction, is priceless. But the most compelling thing about that is that when you're in this tunnel, you're basically underground. So if you're using this device, out in any area that picks up a radio station, then you come into a lot of noise. Well, the location that we were in, there were no outside frequencies coming in. So you didn't get that jumble of different things coming through the device. It was just basically white noise until the thing said her name. And that by far is probably the most compelling piece of evidence that I've seen to date.
Wow.
Well, I know this is going to be a little bit off topic, but it kind of goes in with the theory that I have with the paranormal. But have you ever experienced anything like any UFOs or anything crypto, like a Bigfoot or anything like that?
Yeah, I haven't, but I've never been really in a position to do so. One of the things on that topic, one of the things that interests me, and it's a trip I hope to make soon. I've always been intrigued with the story of the Brown Mountain Lights over there in North Carolina, and because there's this phenomenon dated back to the 1920s. There were reports of this, being published in the papers even back then. And to date, there is no explanation for those lights. And, I find that kind of remarkable with, with the technology that we have today, the satellite technology alone, there's still no explanation for those lights. So, that's one trip that I hope to make and hope to be able to witness that for myself.
Now, I think there's some lights like that. I can't remember if it was Texas, Utah, or Arizona, or New Mexico. One of those states. I remember somebody talking about some lights that, excuse me, every time you think you're getting closer to them, they'd get further away. Is that kind of like what's going on down in North Carolina?
Well, these lights kind of float above Brown Mountain, and Brown Mountain, I think, is probably around 60 miles west of Asheville, and the lights are there, and you can supposedly see them from the scenic overlooks. Around this time of year is presumably the best time of year to be able to see them. But there's nothing on the mountain. There's no cell phone towers. There's no, there's nothing there. And, people have went searching for these things and to try and figure out what causes this phenomenon, but there's simply nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty compelling phenomena that I think you would find interesting. And, as far as a possible explanation goes, I mean, if people haven't been able to explain it for almost 100 years, then, I certainly don't have an explanation for it.
Yeah, Robin's got them pulled up right now, showing me the pictures. Damn.
Those are pretty cool.
That is.
Oh, and there's nothing there. There's nothing there. There are no cell phone towers. There are no, there are no roads. There's nothing there.
That's really cool.
That is. Oh, I'd like to go down there and at least witness them my damn self. Well, so what would you, I hate to go back to, since we got into this, but hell, we can talk about this all night. But go back to your, to your directing and stuff. What would you say is the most challenging shot that you ever had to film or direct?
I'm actually working on that one presently. And, it's, all I can really say about it is we are going to reenact someone hanging themselves.
Oh.
And, while that may seem easy, and it is, it could be easy, but I'm kind of looking for something a little more authentic than I've ever seen. And so that's kind of hard to come by when you're an independent guy.
Right.
But, we're hoping to take that scene and make it into, something that's more than believable. And, that's why it's so difficult, I guess, to me, because, I don't want to do cutaway shots. I want to full on, see this guy hang himself.
Mm-hmm.
So that one's been pretty difficult for me so far.
Wow.
This sounds like that'd be tough because you don't want to kill nobody. I didn't accidentally mean for him to hang himself, but damn, it was a hell of a shot.
Yeah, right. No, I don't want to kill anybody, and if I do, I certainly hope that they come back as the star of, American Ghost Town somewhere along the way.
I not only get to use you in this movie, but I can use you in the pilot too. Hell yeah. So, what other aspects of a film have you done other than just directing? I guess you've done writing, acting, and I mean, what all else have you done in front and behind the camera?
I do a little bit of everything. I've did a little bit of acting, which is not my favorite thing to do, just because I'm not good at it.
A director that admits it.
Of course, the writing and directing. Worked on soundtracks, editing. I've worked lighting. I did a little bit of everything, right down to holding the boom mic, and and taking out the trash. So I did a little bit of everything. And I don't claim to be a master of any of those things, except for maybe taking out the trash. But it's all. I'm a student of all of this, and hopefully while I'm out searching for the truth, then somebody else is entertained by what we hand in at the end of the day.
Right.
That kind of goes into your question.
Yeah. So out of all those jobs, I was going to ask you which was the most difficult to master, but since you haven't mastered any,
except taking out the trash. Yeah.
Other than not mastering them, which one is more difficult for you?
For me, the editing process is painstaking, and that's simply because you go out, you shoot each sequence several times over. You take it home and you look at every second of what you've got to find the best material that you have to work with. And, you know, I don't want to say that I'm not disciplined enough to do that. It's just that my mind tends to wander onto other things. And sometimes it's easy to get sidetracked. That's why I tend to shoot everything I plan on shooting during the, you know, spring, summer, and fall. And it's a little bit easier in the winter for me to get locked into that mindset because I just don't like being outside in the cold. But, you know, editing is, you know, it's an art form in itself. And, you know, I've came a long way with it. I'm certainly proud of what I've done, but I still, you know, when I look at other TV shows and, you know, especially the blockbuster stuff that comes out of Hollywood, then it just makes me realize how much can be done with, you know, with these softwares and platforms and, you know, the things that are available to everybody today.
All right. Well, what would you, in your opinion, what is the most important part of making a film?
I think, you know, assuming the responsibility of the producer of the film, I think that's the most important part because, you know, you've got to be prepared to, you know, to realize that can go wrong, usually does. And, you know, you may have to, you know, burn some bridges along the way. You know, everybody that sits out on a project is not always there to see the end of it. Just because, you know, there's always that dynamic between people when they're working together. And, you know, that I'm sure both of you understand that from, you know, having anything to do with any paranormal groups. You know, sometimes the combination of people just doesn't work.
Right.
But, you know, if you are the guy who is committed to seeing it through, then to me, that's clearly the most important part. I mean, you know, if someone else ends up ultimately editing the film, you know, as long as it's done to, you know, to the standards that you set out with, then, you know, it's not really going to matter if you switch some of that personnel along the way, you know. But if you take out the guy who's willing to see it through, then, you know, the project's never done.
Right.
Mike Diamond would be fucked without me. So what type of movies and films do you enjoy watching yourself?
Oh man, you know, a little bit of everything. I guess, you know, I was talking with somebody about this the other night. You know, about all-time favorite films. And, you know, when I think about the catalog of movies that I've seen just in my life, you know, and just the ones I've seen, you know, then, man, you know, again, there's so much more out there that I haven't seen. But, you know, today, I guess, you know, my favorite film of all time is, you know, the Stand By Me movie that was based on a short story by Stephen King.
Oh, yes. That's one of my favorites.
And, you know, that's my number one. That's my number one to date. You know, and then, of course, you know, I've enjoyed this past year with all the new Star Wars coming out. And, you know, I watch everything. I mean, I watch everything I can because, you know, there's something you can learn from any of it, even, you know, even the old silent films. You know, there's something to learn. You know, and maybe, you know, you may find something that nobody's seen in 30, 40 years and find a way to integrate that into what you're working on and, you know, make it fresh again. So, you know, there's a ton of them out there, man, but I mean, I go to the movies every weekend and, you know, I buy a ticket, you know, so, Pete's Dragon, honestly, is, you know, I went back to see that thing 3 times, and I'm not ashamed to say it. Kids movie, but it was great. It was put together well, and I bought 3 tickets. So.
Well, my favorite's Last of the Mohicans, if anybody gives a shit.
That was a good one too. Well, my favorite is Tombstone. Everybody should know.
Yeah, Tombstone. Okay, so who's your favorite directors then?
My favorite director, well, there's a lot of them out there that I have a lot of respect for. J.J. Abrams, obviously, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, Ron Howard, every name that you would probably expect me to say, and also Robert Rodriguez, because that guy did some amazing stuff with no money. I read an interview where he's talking about using a wheelchair as a camera dolly. So and the stuff that guy's put out is just amazing.
Whatever works. Right. So, do you write your own scripts, or do you rely on others to write it for you?
I write. No, I don't. That's one thing that I'm very protective about. I don't write my own scripts, or I'm sorry, I don't allow other people to write my own scripts. I've got a couple of scripts here that I've actually written with the idea of major motion pictures in mind. And of course, those things they're in rewrite until the day that God willing they're ever made. But I guess I'm a bit of a control freak over that. Now, as far as the stuff with This Place is Haunted documentary and American Ghost Towns, a lot of that stuff is some of it is scripted just for the sake of having a direction. But as far as responses, if I'm interviewing someone and I ask them a question, and I don't dictate their response whatsoever. What you see is what you get, and what these people believe that they are experiencing or have experienced. So we're not baiting them in any way. They're free to respond however they want to respond.
Well, have you ever had any conflict with while producing or directing a movie or TV pilot that you're working on?
No, not well. Yeah, maybe a little bit, but not so much this time around. Have I had those things in the past? Absolutely. Come on, Ronnie, you know me.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, there's conflict within. I mean, even I have conflict within my group.
No, not you.
Yeah, just a little bit. Oh my God! Especially when you take stuff from my office that ain't yours. Oh, that was meant for somebody that was in the group. I know she ain't listening, so fuck her.
Yeah, it's not cool to take stuff from me.
No.
And I'm always a pleasure to work with.
As you recall, Rodney, I'm not going to dig into the politics of the situations or anything, but with This Place is Haunted, I made that film twice. Mm-hmm. And the reason I made it the second time was because of all the conflict the first time, so there came a point, where I didn't even think the thing was going to come out. And so, we were scheduled to have this thing drop in January of 2012. And I remember being in the movie theater the day that it was supposed to open. And I was in there taking my poster down. And I can't tell you, I mean, there was a range of emotions that day. But, I took the poster down and I burned it, Mm-hmm. And I went home and, courtesy of, my family, my mother specifically, God rest her soul, she passed away earlier this year.
I'm sorry.
But she told me at that time, I kind of explained to her why, there was supposed to be an audience in the theater for my movie that night, and the movie wasn't going to be there. And she was she was a tough lady. She was a fireball actually, and so she told me, she's like, so what are you going to do? Quit? And I thought about it for a couple of days. I thought about it even after I went back to work on it. I thought about it, but thanks to her support and everything, I never gave up on it. And so almost a year to the day later, the film was back in the theater, and we had a week of sold out shows, and thankfully people stuck with me through that. And honestly, I mean, I ended up with a better film because of it. So conflict certainly arises, but it's not always a terrible thing in the end. I mean, I think sometimes it's for the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes you have to back up, punt, and reevaluate, and you end up doing a better job than you did the first time. Lord,
Or the first 4 times.
Or the first 4 times. Yeah. Damn it! Did you have to bring that up? Lord.
So how?
Right. Well, I don't think, I don't think you. I mean, I don't think you fail unless you just give up.
Exactly.
And that may sound typical, or what you might expect someone to say, but it really is the truth. Unless you just give up, then there's no way to fail.
Well, we have a wise man in our group, Jerry Connor, and I'll be honest with you and everyone. They've been 2 or 3 times that I've just wanted to hang it up and just say to hell with it. And Jerry would always corner me or call me to his office. Ain't that some shit? I'm still getting called into the principal's office, but he would always talk to me and listen to me complain and gripe about everything, and then he'd be like, look where you are right now compared to where you was, say, 5 years ago or 6 years ago or 7 years ago. Now, do you just want to walk away and just give it up? If you do, no problem. Everybody's all cool with that. But don't you want to see it all the way through and see what happens at the end? And
exactly. And those are the people that are great to have around. Not only for, I mean, I think sometimes the best support you can get is to have somebody that will listen to you bitch and complain and let you get it all out and kind of point you into, a different direction.
Yeah, because, the way I look at it with a producer or director just like you, you ain't got no one to really complain to. Everybody comes to you and complains. Just like with me, everybody comes and complains to me. Who do I get to say, shit, I can't handle this. I got, maybe I need a day off. Maybe I need to scream and punch at something too.
And let me remind everybody, that excludes me because I'm always perfect.
Shit.
I never make you mad.
She's made me mad 1 time in 8 years, so that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, that's a pretty good track record. I think I'd hang on to her.
Now, I don't know how many times I've made her mad, but.
Well, how many times have I told you F you?
Well, okay, since I can't think of that, then not many then.
There you go.
All right.
So, how hard is it to have a private life with fame creeping up on you?
I don't really have any issues with that. I know, I leave everything at the door. I mean, and I don't know that fame is necessarily creeping up on me. I mean, that's really not why I do what I do. My goal with all of this is that, one day, once I'm, really old or gone, then, I hope somebody can still look back at this stuff and learn some things and have, or have an open mind toward the paranormal, or at the very least be entertained.
Yeah. Now you never know. Maybe one day you're going to be on somebody's favorite director list.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I hope that happens, but if it does, I'm still a pretty private guy, and I don't even know that anybody even really knows where I live. I don't venture outside of here too much.
So what do you do when you're not so busy on your downtime? Here lately, I've been taking a lot of still photographs, and that's something that I'm just delving into, and developing a passion for that as well. And Rodney, I know you're a pretty talented photographer yourself.
Oh, thank you.
But I'm not claiming to be talented just yet. But I like to take the camera and throw it in the car and just take off. Destination unknown. And when I find something that strikes my eye, then I like to spend some time with photographing it, and that's coming along. And in fact, I'm currently making plans here for the not too distant future. I'm hoping before the end of this year. In fact, I'm hoping before the weather gets really bad in the Northeast. My plan is to do just that, and to take about a month and just hit the road, destination unknown, and take a ride across America, and just take it all in. There's a lot of people that never get to do that, and there's people in any small town across the country that there's a lot of people there that never leave those towns, and so I just want to. That's one of the things that I plan on doing. Hopefully here, hopefully around the 1st of November, I can leave and go see some exciting things.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's something I've wanted to do for quite a few years. I just ain't never done it yet, but I'd like to grab the old camera where you're talking about driving. I just like to walk across America and take pictures. And
that would be great. I'm not young enough to do that anymore.
Well, I'm not either, but I got to wobble my ass across America, but I'll wobble. Well,
yeah, my plans are to start, my plans are to head out of here hopefully by the end of the first week of November, and get back home sometime before Christmas, or maybe not. It just depends on how long it takes. But my plans are to venture up into the Northeast. I've always wanted to go to Maine, and I've not made it there yet, and so that's one of the things on my bucket list. So I thought that would be a good place to start, and from there just make my way out to the West Coast and drive down the Pacific Coast Highway, and then back across the southern side of the country.
Yeah, it's.
So I think I mapped it out once. I think it's going to end up taking me across I think like 31 states or something. So that in itself is pretty exciting to me.
It is. Well, I know when I drove a truck, I got to see it, out the windshield. I'd love to have been able to stop to a lot of places, but I couldn't. So
right, and that's one of the things I want to do. I just if I end up in the middle of nowhere in North Dakota and they have a Motel 6 and I can crash there for a couple of days if I so desire, then that's what I want to do.
Hell yeah, ain't nothing wrong with that. Well, can you explain what a film festivals are and how they help, with trying to get your films out like yours?
Yeah, film festivals are, they're they're a great thing, and they're a frustrating thing, and basically how it works depending on the festival. There's so many of them out there now. You submit your film and you pay an entry fee, and you submit into whatever category your film may fall. Of course, I know a thing or two about the documentary category and things like that, but a lot of times, that's where you really learn to deal with rejection. And it's not that you have a bad product. It's just that it's so competitive. Everybody's making film now. You can make a film on your iPhone now. And so it's become a very competitive marketplace. And, of course, if you're accepted, then the idea is to win. So, which may turn into an entirely new disappointment. But, I've been, recently I was part of a independent film that was filmed here in Southwest Virginia, and the premise of this film, the idea of this film, the whole storyline of this film is completely ridiculous. And that's why I chose to sign on, because I wasn't really asked to have anything to do with the film. I was asked to write a piece of music, right? So I did that with my son, and it turns out that Night of the Were-Rooster.
Whoa, what would you say?
Take that in for a minute. Night of the Were-Rooster.
I've heard that. You talked to me about that.
Sorry, that took me off guard for a second.
Clayton, was Clayton part of that too, or something? Or was that just you?
Well, I'm sorry. What was that? I didn't hear the question.
Is Clayton somehow involved in that?
Clayton's part of that. Clayton's actually one of the best parts of that.
He wrote it, didn't he?
I don't know. I just know that I heard Jerry talking about, and I remember Clayton talking about it, and I went and looked it up, and I'm like, okay, what the hell is this? But it's so cool.
Yeah, right. Well, like I said, the idea is ridiculous, but it was always meant to be. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was. I'm a friend of the director and the writer, and so I've known about this thing for probably 7 years or something, and it was a surprise to me when it actually was getting ready to come out. And so at that point, I was asked if I could write a song for the movie, and of course I wasn't given much notice on that, but it turned out great. I did that with my son, and that film is winning festivals now. They won the Mad Monster Film Festival in Charlotte, and they were on to a couple of different festivals after that. So that's it's a compliment to me to be able to be a part of things like that.
Wow, that is amazing. So
so what advice would you give an upcoming director?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Every director has told us that.
Become a doctor, become an attorney, become an entertainment attorney. My advice, truthfully, would be shoot everything you can. Shoot everything you can, and find ways to do it. Find creative shots that nobody has ever seen before, and absorb it, learn by doing. I was in Los Angeles, and I was working on a film for Alex Mandelberg out there, and this is one of those films that never saw the light of day. But Alex's father, Neil Mandelberg, has won several Emmys for his editing work on TV shows like The Ghost Whisperer. And, he told me, he was weighing these options of going to UCLA film school and all this and that. And his dad just told him, you want to be a filmmaker, go make a film.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the best advice I've ever heard.
Makes a lot of sense too. Well, I know that you're in your bio, it says that you're a student of the paranormal. So have
Yes.
you ever had any paranormal experiences that you'd like to, share with everyone or talk about?
Well, I tell you, nothing recently. But, when I was growing up, I grew up in a haunted house. And for the longest time, as I got older, I was terrified of this house when I was a kid. And then, when I had gotten on into my teenage years, then I became more worried about cars and girls and, the things that teenage boys worry about. And so, at that time, I kind of started dismissing everything to an overactive imagination. And so this house I grew up in, when I said it was on the back 40, I wasn't kidding. My father owned a lot of land. I think it was actually closer to 130 acres, that this house was sitting on. And so, there were always those things that went bump in the night and the things that scared me when I was a young kid. But later on, my father had passed away and it left, just me and my mother in the house. And so, I don't know, when I was probably around 17, things started happening. I would hear, I had the only bedroom on the upstairs level of the house. And this house was built like in the 1920s. Old house. And so I would hear footsteps. I would, like, everybody says that, but like I would hear footsteps coming up the stairwell and walking down the hallway into this room across the hall from me. And I would always hear this stuff, in the middle of the night. It was always late, or early, depending on how you looked at it. This was stuff that was going on between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning and waking me up. Waking me out of a sound sleep, not just something that I was imagining. And for the longest time, I dismissed it to my mom just not being able to sleep and being up walking around the house.
Right.
And so, I'm working nights then, I'm going to school still. And so it got to a point, like I would turn the radio on to try and drown it out. I would leave the lights on, and it still just kept on happening. And so I got up one night, with every intention of, asking my mom why she was walking around the house. Well, I opened the bedroom door, and there's nothing there. And so the next morning, and I asked her about it, I was like, Mom, you're keeping me awake all night and I can't get up for school. So what's going on? She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so, that's when it all kind of began to sink in, and so years later, and I ended up moving away from home, for this reason.
Wow.
And so fast forward, 7 or 8 years later, I'm like 25 years old, and I end up in South Florida at my brother's house, and we never had conversations about this kind of stuff ever. And, I'm sitting there and, enjoying dinner, and this question comes out of nowhere. My brother asked me, and at this point, he was an ex-combat Marine. He'd been in Beirut, Lebanon, and he'd seen all these horrible things. Not a guy that is easily scared. And so we're sitting there in the middle of dinner, and he says, "Hey, tell me something." He says, "Have you ever had anything weird happen to you up there in that old house?" and you could have heard a pin drop, and I didn't immediately tell him what I'm telling you guys, but I get, my first response was like, well, why do you ask? And so he proceeds to tell me that when, he had this experience when he came home from the military, when he had came back from Beirut and had gotten a month off and had came home, he had been sleeping in this room across the hall from where my bedroom was. This is where I heard these footsteps going. And he said that he was sleeping in there one night. And he said, I swear to God, he's like, you're not going to believe me. He's like, but something sat down on the edge of the bed with me. And it started pulling the blankets off of me.
Wow.
And he said, I was so scared that I couldn't even scream. And so once he told me that, then, I told him about the footsteps and the walking that I heard going into that same room. And, it was much more than a coincidence. And, by that point, the house had sold. It remained vacant since it sold. And so it all kind of came together. And so I came back to Virginia, and then, at that point I'm a little older. I'm like, okay, Mom, it's time to tell me what's really going on up there, And so she told me, she's like, well, I didn't want to tell you when we lived there because I didn't want to scare you. But she's like, yeah, there's over the years been a lot of things that went on in that room. Apparently I had a distant relative that died a miserable death in that room.
Oh, man.
And, my father owned this house for a number of years while the family lived away from here, in Central Florida. And, one of the things that my mother told me is that, at one time there had been a piano in that room, and that my dad made sure that somebody had moved that thing out before we moved back into the house because, he'd heard it play itself, and so, I don't know what's up there, and I've never had a desire to ever go back or to ever spend another night in that place.
Wow.
I would say not. But
So
we would like to go there.
As a paranormal experience, then I would say yes, I've had one.
I would say yes.
Yeah,
that qualifies. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one I'd like to go check out.
Oh yeah, it is.
Well, I know you also have a music career. Rodney played one of your songs at the beginning of the show. So could you tell us what your inspiration for writing Dead Man's Hands?
Yeah, it's actually a love story. It's actually not really paranormal as far as the inspiration goes. Dead Man's Hands was, I had been given the script for the movie Grizzly Park, and I was, as I mentioned, I was asked to write a piece of music, so I was given the script, and I read through it, and there was one paragraph in the script, and I don't even think it really ever made it into the film. It wasn't an exciting moment or anything like that, but it just, I remember reading it and just being struck with this overwhelming feeling of uncertainty. This paragraph represented uncertainty. And so I started thinking about that, about the whole idea of, but none of us have a promise of tomorrow or even an hour from now, and so the idea, and the idea for the song is basically based on being able to look back and take care of that special person that that you love, only maybe doing it from a different plane of existence.
That's pretty cool.
And so, that's been an underlying theme in a lot of my music. I don't know why. It's just, I never wanted to write music that was garbage. There's plenty of fly-by-night things on the radio, but I really think 20, 30 years from now, somebody will hear that song and it'll still be valid. I like to think it's timeless, and that's kind of what I strive for with anything that I write. But when Grizzly Park got worldwide distribution, it was amazing because I had people emailing me and contacting me through social media. And, I remember this one guy from Ireland contacting me through MySpace was a big thing, at that time. And so he contacted me and asked me, he was praising the song, and he was asking me, if it was okay for him to play it in his local pub. And I'm like, are you kidding me, man? I mean, that's the biggest compliment you can get, when you can reach somebody on the other side of the world, then, you've really done something right. So, and that's one of the things I'm proud of. It only took me 10 years to get my first royalty check from that, but hey, I was both surprised and happy to get it.
I'd say so.
And that just happened this year. So,
well,
that's been a while. The song's 10 years old, and I'm getting mail from ASCAP with a check. So that's always a good thing.
Anytime you get a check in the mail is a good thing.
Right.
But I can tell you this much, Jerry, that's one of my favorite songs. I listen to it, I bet you, every other day or something. Sometimes I'll play it 10, 15 times in a row.
No, I really appreciate that, man. I really appreciate that because, I think what comes across, I think the reason that so many people appreciate that song is just, it's an honest song. It's just honest. And, if you're going to create music and you're doing anything less, then, in my opinion, you're not being fair to your art.
Well, I've been playing it when we've been waiting for a guest to show up. So do that mean I got to pay him a royalty check? Shit. Don't tell him. We don't need him to know that.
So is your family musical?
My son is. My son's taking it to the next level. Actually, he's been out in Nashville working with his band, and these guys are really talented. And I'm very proud of him. My father was musical, so but apparently it skips all my other siblings. They kind of left that up to me. But yeah, my son's doing well, and those guys are all in their early 20s, and man, you go see them live, and it's almost like you're a Led Zeppelin show or something. They're really bringing the classic rock and roll vibe back to the forefront with what they do, and they're very good at it.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So with your father being musical and then you being musical, so I take it your family was encouraging with your music?
On some days they were.
Get a job.
That learning curve is tough. When you're all in the same house and you don't know how to play your instrument, man, those make for some long days. And
yeah.
I've been there with my son too.
Yeah, my son's learning the guitar right now. So.
yeah. Well, and it took a long time before anything that I played sounded good, and so. But my dad, of course, I mean, he played banjo, and he was very supportive. He was always, he bought me my first guitar. He was always buying strings and encouraging me and you know, books, you know, the most important thing that anybody could give to somebody else, you know. He was very encouraging, and you know, unfortunately, you know, he passed away before I ever even got good at it. So, you know, so when I am able to sit down and come up with an idea like the song Dead Man's Hands, you know, that you mentioned, I kind of look at that as maybe that's Dad slipping me an idea, or you know, looking down on me and having something to do with it. And you know, from wherever he is, you know, I hope that he realizes that.
So, which musicians do you admire and why?
Oh man, the list is long. I mean, everybody from Mozart to Eddie Van Halen, to, I mean, wow, Robert Johnson, Eric Clapton. You know, I don't think I've ever heard any piece of music that I haven't been able to, you know, to learn something from or hear something that, you know, I mean, one of my favorite songs, you know, I mean, I mentioned this movie as that being my favorite movie earlier, and I think maybe this has a lot to do with it, but, you know, the Benny King song, Stand By Me. I mean, that's, to this day, man, that song gives me chills. I mean, just the string arrangement in that song, you know. But, you know, it really just depends on who we're talking about. I mean, Bruce Hornsby in the Range, man. I mean, I admire him for different reasons than I admire Eddie Van Halen. You know, Bruce is able to paint a picture with his music and his piano, and for the longest time, you know, he would paint these portraits of the South, and you know, it just every musician, every player, every artist, you know, they all have their own fingerprint, and music, you know, the universe of music is it's infinite, and that's why it kills me to hear like modern radio, because you know, it's the same old stuff rehashed, and nobody really ever does anything different. But you know, that universe is infinite, and there's so many possibilities out there, and it's just you know, but unfortunately, you know, we rarely ever hear any new or innovative ideas.
Yeah, well, that damn it, that ain't true. So what was it like with your ups and downs when you were trying to start your musical career?
Well, you know, there were a lot of downs. There were a tremendous number of downs. I had gotten to the point. Where I gave it up. You know, I threw down the guitar. I didn't pick it up for 2 years. And so, you know, and it's funny that, you know, a B-rated horror movie, you know, which I'm referring to Grizzly Park, you know, it's amazing how one thing can come along and change, you know, pretty much the trajectory of your life. But, you know, I had given it up. And like I said, I hadn't picked up an instrument in 2.5 years. And then when I heard about this movie and that I had an opportunity to submit, then I thought, okay, you know, I'll try this one more time. And that was the one time, you know, that was the one time. And so ups and downs, like I said, I've seen plenty of them, but that by far was a high point, and you know, and still is.
Wow. So, do you get nervous before a performance?
Always. I don't even like playing. You know, I get nervous. I won't say I don't like playing in front of people. I mean, I love playing in front of people, but yeah, that 10 to 20 minutes before you do, it's very nerve-wracking for me. And I mean, even people I know, even in front of people I know, even sometimes in front of the people that work on my production. I mean, sometimes I get nervous, and it's always something that's there, and but once you're in that zone and in that place, though, then that passes, and it's then it becomes more about bringing your audience along with you.
I don't think I could do it.
Well, I know when I get nervous, I start stuttering, and everybody makes fun of me. And then I normally got Jeff in the corner, and he'll say something and make me stutter worse. And then after a little while, I'll calm down. I'm like, okay, I've got this. And then later, when we're talking about it, everybody's like, dude, you sound like shit. Thank you for the encouragement.
I'm always encouraged.
Well, I mean, I think if you don't get nervous, I mean, there's something that to me just doesn't seem natural about that. So I think the whole nerves part of it is very, very normal part of it.
I agree.
I get the shaky voice.
She does, and squeaky loud. She'll get
Well, see,
she'll get in front of the people and she'll start squeaking loud, and I'm like, Lord God, please just calm down.
Well, see, I used to just drink a lot, and while that certainly takes care of the nerves, when you look back at your performance, then you realize what a really terrible idea that probably was. So I don't know. I'd rather just ride it out with the nerves and do the best I can do, and that's all anybody can do. So,
since you brought up drinking, they had at County Fair a few years ago a contest, and everybody talked me into doing a stand-up gig. Well, I like to cuss, as everyone well knows, but they told me I couldn't cuss. So that was the hardest thing for me to do, was write up something without cussing. But I did it, but I got fried getting up there before I even done the stand-up. And then I got beat out by a damn 5-year-old boy playing a banjo. I'm like, that wasn't even a competition.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's I try and stay clear of it, reasonably, and I find that I perform and concentrate and am able to do much more, from a sober frame of mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, I thought I did awesome from a intoxicated frame of mind, but they didn't think so. But anyway, let's not tell on myself anymore than I already have. Mm-hmm. Do you have any new projects that you're working on this year, and can you discuss any of them that finish out the year, other than just going taking photos and driving the country, because that is an awesome fucking thing to do?
Yeah, I'm hoping to finish up American Ghost Towns. That's number one on my list, and after that, there will be more music coming. I've got probably a couple albums worth of material written, and so once I can get my hands off this film, then it'll give me a little time to get back to basics and do what led to all this. So
I thought he was going to say, once I get off this damn show, I can get some work done. That's what I thought he was going to say. I'm like, well, okay, well, that concludes this show. Damn.
Now, doing things like this, this is really, this is one of my favorite parts of the film stuff, and any of it really is, the promotion and being able to reach people and talk to people and talk to you guys, and hopefully somebody in your audience will run on over there to Amazon and pick up This Place Is Haunted, or go check out some of my music on YouTube, or and hopefully somebody will find some enjoyment with any of that. So This actually is one of the funnest parts of being involved in all of this.
What if we get comments from some hotties that want your number? Do I pass that out or no?
We'll speak off the air about that.
He'll probably keep them for himself.
Hey, I'm not that kind.
Right.
Bros before, well, I can't say that. Donald Trump ruined it all for me now.
So what are your big plans for 2017?
Wow, 2017 is an empty canvas at this point. My first goal is to show up for it. And, it's hard to tell. I think it's going to be an exciting year, just because I am going to feel like it is a fresh canvas, and so it'll be interesting to see what ideas I do come up with to pacify my time in 2017. But I'm not quite sure yet. I think one of the things is with this time out on the road, I want to keep it simple. While I want to go out and take pictures and all that, I'm also packing a guitar and a digital recorder, and I love to write an album from a different state with every song, So.
Well, you're going to have to go out on an investigation with us. Well, you did that one, but that was a little different than what we normally do. Take you into one of our creepy houses we go to down your way.
Sure, I'd love to.
Yeah, because we're working on one in Gate City for November.
Mm-hmm.
We've already done it. We done it in the spring, but we got so much good evidence. But the problem was no one told us where to really set up, because they said it was all through the house. And I'm like, this is a big damn house. How am I supposed to set up everywhere? But now we know the hot spots. So, yeah, we're going to try to get something worked out before you take off, so that way you can enjoy it and come by and say hi and maybe teach me a thing or two.
Hey, I don't know if I can do that, but I'd love to be a part of it. And
come hang out with all us weird people.
I do have one stop in mind up in New York. When I do head out, and I definitely want to visit that famous house up there that the Lutz family couldn't seem to live in for too long. And sure, I definitely want to go to Amityville. So
that would be cool.
That would be. Oh Lord.
So Jerry, do you have any websites that people go to get in contact with you and check out all your stuff?
Oh, yeah, mostly through Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. You can find American Ghost Towns on Facebook. That's the one that I'm real excited to push. And, right now I think we're a little over 6,100 likes on there, and constantly growing. And I'm always real surprised because, once somebody likes the page, I have to see where they're from. And, we've had people from all over the world, and, really excited about that. So Facebook.com/American Ghost Towns. And you can find anything that has to do with me from there.
Awesome.
Well, that sounds good. Because I was going to ask you, how can people get in contact with you, but she got it before I could.
And I would encourage people, especially
I just like
within the region. I would encourage people within the region. If you have something legitimate that you think might interest me in the way of the paranormal, I would encourage you to reach out, because while I have an empty canvas for 2017, I do have an idea in the back of my mind that's been there for some time to do This Place Is Haunted Volume 2, and I want to keep that true to what it is and keep it as a regional project. And because of people in this area, and I was very surprised, to show up at the theater and see how many people really did come out and support it and how many people care about it. So, there will be a volume 2 at some point. So it's a matter of finding the right stories at this point.
Well, I just went and liked your page, and I must say it looks very interesting.
Thank you very much.
Now he's going to take you out.
And I sent you a friend request, so my heart is going to be broken and my feelings are going to be hurt if you do not respond.
I will absolutely respond.
Okay. Put you on the spot on air. You can't back out now. You're my Facebook friend.
Not a problem whatsoever.
You see what I got to deal with?
I won't stalk you, I promise.
She's a stalker.
Oh no, it's okay. I don't even mind being stalked. It's that means you're relevant. So
now I'm gonna have to go through and like all your pictures, right? Just
like.
Go right ahead.
So Jerry, is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about?
No, man. I just think you've covered quite a bit, and thank you for having me on the show.
Oh man, I appreciate you coming on the show. Like I said, I have nothing but respect for, what you've done and what you're doing. And when I first met him, I met him down in Abilene when Clayton and him were working on a project. And I don't think he knew how to take me at first because he kind of was standoffish, like, who the fuck is that big motherfucker? And then, he heard me talking. He's like, hell yeah. I like that. Well, at least that's the impression I got.
No, man, you've always been good to me, Ronnie, and
How come you're
I
good
get nervous
to
when I meet people.
I like him.
I see how you are. Yeah.
Well, Jerry, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. I really do. And anytime you want to come on and talk about anything, just hook me up and look me up or shoot me up or something like that.
That sounded horrible.
It did, didn't it?
That sounded bad.
That sounded real bad. That sounded like some kind of crack thing, didn't it? For all you drug people out there, that was for you.
He doesn't discriminate.
No. Well, Jerry, you have a good night, bud. And like I said, I do appreciate you coming on the show.
All right, Ronnie. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jerry.
You have a good night.
Bye.
Thanks.
Boy, our time went fast, didn't it? That's it for us tonight. I want to thank Jerry Force for coming on the show, and my co-host that fucking forgot her damn tongue. And thank everyone that took the time to listen in. I'd like to give a big shout out to the Vibe Radio Network, also to all the first responders, our men and women in armed services. Thank you for your service. Our guest for next Thursday night, October 20th, will be Hiller, paranormal investigator, beautiful size model. I guess that's supposed to be plus size model. I copied that from her Facebook page.
Beautiful size model.
Well, okay. Radio host, entertainer, and public speaker, Holly Mullins. So
that's my girl.
I think that's everybody's girl. She put it all out there. So turn in next week to another exciting show starting at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, be safe and have a good night.
Night, y'all.
Never let it out, you never let it go. I feel it red on fire, I feel me losing control. I can see in your eyes that it's just about over. I can see in your eyes that I'm just about over this life with you goes on. Oh, why don't you stand up? There's nothing left to scream about. And shut your mouth. There's nothing left to talk about. left to scream about. Back it up, there's nothing left to talk about. There's something in the air that's pressing down on me. There's something in the woods with the shadows of the trees. I feel its claws around me, but I will feed this fear. Standing in the darkness, 'cause there ain't light in here. Standing in the darkness, 'cause there ain't light in here. And tonight it spreads its wings just like an angel. From where I stand, it's really hard to tell. Am I looking at an angel or the devil's laying spell? Are you leading me to heaven or did you come to drag me down to hell? Are you leading me to heaven or did you come to drag me down to hell? I've never met my maker. I don't think he has the time. There's a man way down below that claims he's a friend of mine. I'm walking in the valley of the shadow we all know. I never made it out to Jordan. Nobody's praying for my soul. Never made it out to Jordan. Nobody cares for me, I know. Tonight it spreads its wings just like an angel. From where I stand, it's really hard to tell. Am I looking at an angel or the devil's latest spell? Are you leading me to heaven or did you come to drag me down to hell? Are you leading me to heaven or did you come to drag me down to hell? Oh my God, forgive me for everything I've done. Never meant to be a monster out here on the run. I'll change my evil heart, second guess my wicked ways. The devil came down love me astray. And tonight it spreads its wings just like an angel. From where I stand, it's really hard to tell. Sometimes our own angels are the devils in ourselves. Why you leading me to heaven? Did you come to drag me down to hell? Are you leading me to heaven? Did you come to drag me down to hell? Are you leading me on, did you come to drag me down to hell? Are you leading me to hell? Lord, did you come to drag me down to hell?
Insurance-minded speeches from Geico.
It's a common expression, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. However, what if the horse's mouth is filled with useful insurance tools? This is the exact case with the Geico app. Yes, the app is free and therefore a gift horse. However, look inside the app and behold, emergency roadside assistance, digital ID cards, bill pay. Get the Geico app. Look it in the mouth. Get amazing services. Thank you.